Right, hitting live. Hey, Fearless. Welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. Second one of 2026. We are rolling. We are in it, like it or not. Really excited for today's session. I'm really been looking forward to this for a long time. So, guys, there's a lot of things that we don't want to talk about. There's a lot of things that are tough to talk about. But we've got Sean Quigg here. He's a lawyer. He is here to talk to us about when private lending goes bad. So we're going to talk about both spectrums. We're going to talk about when we're the borrower, when we're the lender. What can we do to protect ourselves on both sides? What are some of the things we should have in place? And so super excited to have him here. Before we get started, for those of you that don't know me, I am Tiffany. I am a co-founder of this beautiful group, Fearless, and the offshoot from it, Ignited, which are the best, investors in Canada, of course. So we talk about being a good human, always in Ignited, being action takers and supporting one another. So we start, we scale, we manage our portfolios together. So that's who I am. If you are on with us tonight, please say hello, throw it in the chat, say who you are, where you're from. Let us know if this is a topic that you've been looking forward to, something you want to hear about. If there's any questions that you have, throw it in the chat. Make sure that we say interactive heart showers and thumbs up and all that stuff always keeps us very, very happy, of course. So, any questions, please throw it in the chat. Ignited's, we will be jumping into laser session afterwards. Sean, of course, will be joining us there as well, so we can ask questions face-to-face direct. Just one question. What I'm seeing right now is a still picture. Is anyone else seeing anything live? Just throw it in the chat for me. Just let me know if you are seeing Sean and I, or if you are seeing a still picture of Ange. Just let me know. We're live and not still. All right, perfect. Awesome. All right, so Sean Quigg, he's with Cardinal Law. He is first, and this is so important, you guys, he is first an investor. He was an investor first, and then became a lawyer. I love how he says that he paired his profession with his interests. So he's in the trenches himself. You can see the forest through the trees. And I love, Sean, too, that you say that you take into account not just like today's plan, but future growth and lifestyle and how that gets affected. So welcome, Sean, from Cardinal Law.
Thank you, Tiffany. It's great to be here.
Yeah, really good to have you here. I really enjoyed our conversation last summer when we got talking about these things about, I came back after 22 months away, and the whole world of private funding or private lending had completely blown up. And there were people all over the place having problems both as borrowers and lenders. And I just loved your take on, where we can go with this and what we can do. So, yeah, you tell us a little bit about your start in real estate, and then your switch into being a lawyer, and tell us how those worlds are converging and what you do now with your life.
Sure. Well, before I went to law school, I had a career with the federal government, and I wanted to do something big with my life, and so I applied to law school, and I applied to three law schools, I think. And a buddy of mine who was from Windsor, I lived in Toronto at the time, he said, "Hey, if you get into Windsor, you should buy a house because they're so cheap." And so I got into Windsor. And so that's what I did. I went and bought a house. I bought a 5 bedroom house about 2 kilometers from the school. And I started renting out the rooms to other law students. I didn't know what house hacking was. What I knew was I was leaving a job with a salary and a pension, and I needed to find some way to live, right, without incurring a whole bunch of debt.
That
So
sounds
that's what I
like
did. Yeah, so I
yep.
bought this house and I took a couple of the rooms. I rented out 3 of the rooms to other students, and next thing you know, I was cash flowing. Now, this is back in the days when you could buy a Windsor single family home for 133,000, which is what I did. My mortgage
Woo, good
payment,
evening yourself.
yeah, my mortgage payment was $526 a month. And so when you're renting rooms for $500, you start to cash flow pretty quick, which is really important. Tiffany, I don't know if you know this, but one of the most important things to get you through law school is beer money. And so the cash flow got me some beer money, which was really great.
I did
And
not know that. Learn something new every day. Perfect. Thank you.
So, then I started to see, okay, well, I'm cash flowing here. This is going pretty good. So I took some of the debt that the banks sort of throw at you when you go to law school, and I bought another student rental. But this time, I learned my lesson. I bought much closer to the school. I bought a bigger house, and luckily, I was buying from another seasoned investor who was also a real estate agent. He let me show the house to prospective tenants before I even owned it. So I had the thing
Nice.
full as of the day I owned it. So I was cash flowing from day one. Um, and
Nice.
so,
That's
I
amazing.
thought, yeah, here I am doing a good job. I've got this real estate thing figured out, right? And so I started joining the Facebook groups and, noticing no one was really all that happy with their lawyer. So it took a little while and to sort of gain the confidence and the sort of the wherewithal to be able to sort of do my own thing. And I started on Bay Street, which is a very golden handcuff type place to be in my industry.
Okay.
And so I went out on my own and sort of started calling myself a real estate investor lawyer because I was that. I was investing first and learned a ton of hard lessons along the way, and started to pay, exactly that, pair my interest in investing in real estate with my profession. And that's led me to where I am today.
Which is a lawyer that specifically deals with investors. I mean, I'm sure you do other stuff too, but you do make it a practice and a habit to help out investors. Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Investors need a nuanced, special type of help that your average residential real estate lawyer just isn't going to know how to do. No disrespect to them, but that's just a different sandbox. I'm in a different sandbox than them, and so with sort of the industry knowledge that I bring, having been in it, along with my partner, who's also been an investor for a long time, we sort of bring that. We also walk the walk in it, to
Yeah.
put it in a certain way.
Which is which is huge because you see it from a completely different point of view. So, okay, so when I first reached out to you, my whole thing was, holy heck, what is going on in this world of private lending? We've got promissory notes left, right, and center that are, going bad. I have clients that have found themselves in bad positions, not because they're bad people or did anything fraudulent, but because the market shifted, the interest rate changes. CMHC decides to change their financing rules in the middle of people's projects. Like these things happen. What are you seeing in your practice and as an investor? Um, you know, in that world of private lending that we're going to talk about tonight and hit up.
We have videos out on social media talking about various areas in real estate investing, and one of them is promissory notes. And I tell you, I get multiple messages a day up from both borrowers and lenders trying to figure out what to do. It, the amount of unpaid promissory loan debt that is overdue right now is staggering. It's
It
staggering.
is.
And I agree with you. Most of that debt is not fraud. It's not, ill will or something nefarious. It is a whole bunch of things that have happened that have caused equity to evaporate and the ability to refinance that debt out, to diminish.
Yeah. And so you've been in investing for a while, and private lending has always been an integral part of an investor's business. It's one way that we can, really scale our portfolios. And without it, it really does take away our options. But what I've noticed, and you've probably seen this too, is that there's a lot of investors out there that are burned as borrowers and burned as lenders. And so in a way, I'm happy because, I've been in this 25 years, and for the first 20 years-ish, I saw private lending be a beautiful tool that could be used. And then all of a sudden it was like there was like just the free for all, like those money machines that you step into and there's money just flowing all around you and everyone was just throwing their money. And it was like, what is happening here? And that's where we found ourselves in trouble. So I am glad that the temperature is coming down. But what I am concerned about is that some people are counting it out, both as borrowers and lenders, where really safely done, calculated done, systemized done, it can be a beautiful tool for investors. So, when we get ourselves in sticky situations, I like that you say most things are fixable. Most things in real estate are fixable. What is it that we need, though, to make those things fixable?
Well, how much time you got, Tiffany? There's
Right?
there's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts with what is the trouble you're in.
Mhm.
So, one thing that is really important is to understand that we need to use the right tool for the job, right? And if you don't know how to use the tool, then and you don't have someone helping you that does, then you're not going to end up completing the job. So if we were to look at this question or sort of, what's fixable from the perspective of a borrower, well, you have the most ability to fix this. Uh, it's just whether or not you can survive until that happens, right? A loan can always be paid back. Uh, it's just
Great.
that
I
it's
love
not
that.
always hard.
Can
Yeah,
we repeat that?
yeah,
Because I think what a lot of people feel right now is that because I've missed a deadline, actually, because I've missed many deadlines, because my project is not bringing in the numbers that it's supposed to, because, all of these things are raining down and everything's gone to pot project wise, I feel like I am now a failure. I am now have no hope of making this right. And what I want to say to people is there is plenty of ways to make this right. We can still make this right. And to quote you, almost everything in REI is fixable. Just you need the right tools. So I want to just repeat that for you, for those of us that are underwater right now. Maybe we've borrowed from people registered, not registered, promissory notes, caveated, liens, not whatever, secured, whatever. There is a way out. And I
yeah.
really think that those that will stay with us in that belief, you're going to be the ones that can stand on a podium in 10 years and tell your story as a success rather than letting that take you out as a failure. So thank you for saying that. I love that you say that. What can we do to best, as borrowers, let's talk as borrowers, what can we do to best set ourselves up for success? We're going to talk about that basis. And then also, once we're already set up and we're rolling and it's too late for that, what can we do to mitigate any damages
Yeah.
that we're already creating?
Well, number one, you hit on it right away. It's to prepare in advance. So I've done a number of real estate projects. I know you have, and I'm pretty sure anyone tuning in tonight probably has or is planning to. And I
Mhm.
can count on zero fingers how many of my projects have gone perfectly without a single hitch.
Right?
Right? So nothing ever goes according to plan in this world. And that's okay. The people who make it are the people who adapt, who switch things up, who pivot, and find a way to make it work. That is why you get paid, especially as an active partner who's not putting capital in. But where it starts is a good foundation, right? So that means trying to separate your personal assets. Number one, that means incorporating. If we're in business and we're borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars and we're doing big projects, then it is more likely than not that you should be incorporated. Why is that?
More
Well,
likely than not that you should be.
yes.
Okay,
Why
so
is
let me
that?
ask.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So some people say, once you get to a certain net worth amount, that is when
Hmm?
you incorporate. But are you saying that if you are going to be borrowing private funds, you may want to do that from the get-go, create that structure?
Yeah. The the net worth conversation is a dollars and cents conversation. It's a is the cost of incorporating and maintaining that corporation worth it? And I'll tell you that if that's the question you're asking, you're thinking about incorporating in entirely the wrong way. It's not that it's a incorrect or irrelevant consideration. It is a relevant consideration whether there's a return on that investment, but it can't be and it ought not to be the sole focus.
So
There's
the
a
way I think of it is that there's the accountant's answer for whether you should incorporate, and then there's the lawyer's answer for whether you should incorporate. And those are the two different answers that we get that we then have to weigh for ourselves.
well, there's actually a molded answer between them.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So I'll give you an example. If you're a person buying your first single family home, I can't in good conscience tell you you should incorporate. Legally, I should. Textbook answer is you should incorporate.
Mm.
But the practical answer is you ought not to. And the reason is really simple. How much cash flow are you making on a single family home? Pretty much anywhere in this country. Maybe $500 a month, maybe
If you're
five.
lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's say 500. So it's $6,000 a year, assuming no vacancy, no maintenance, no capex.
Which we know don't happen in real estate
That's right.
investing. So yeah.
Corporations in this country need to file two returns every year. Most people think and know of one, right? The tax return. And you're going to pay your accountant probably 3,000 bucks to do that.
Yeah.
You also have to file a legal, at least in Ontario. And to get this out of the way, I am Ontario licensed. Uh, I practice in Ontario. I'm only sort of competent to practice in Ontario. I can help with some corporate structuring advice outside of the province, but transactional wise, Ontario only. So in
Okay.
Ontario,
That is the question that came up. Do you
yeah.
practice only in Ontario? Okay. But let me just say what we're talking
Mhm.
about here today is universal laws about laws.
Mhm.
They're not laws. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word when I'm talking to a lawyer. They're universal principles that we can all use, whether we're in Ontario or Timbuktu. We can all use these principles to protect when private lending goes bad. So everyone got that? Thumbs up. We got that. Yes, we understand. This is just principles that we are picking Sean's brain with.
Right.
Okay.
So if you spend 3,000 bucks a year plus HST, which is not a write-off because you don't have any input tax credits, and you pay your lawyer 1,000 bucks to do your legal return and update your minute book, well, then your $5,000 in cash flow is gone, or 6,000 bucks is pretty much gone.
Hmm.
So it doesn't make any practical sense. And I, as a business person, want my client to buy way more of these houses. I want them to grow their portfolio. I want them to live the life they dreamed of. And I, of course, want to be along for the ride. So if I sell them a corporation now and they don't make any money for 10 years, I didn't do them any favors. So that's
Yeah.
why I can't sit here and say the textbook answer makes sense every time. But if you're flipping houses, if you're taking on, Calvert debt to buy and then real hard money to renovate, or if you are buying multifamily and burning multifamilies, or if you're developing and taking private money, you absolutely need a corporate structure that sets you up to reduce your liability. It's not going to eliminate it. Most lenders are going to require a personal guarantee, but that's still a second layer behind the first. And if you're doing anything active like renovating, etc., that corporation is going to be in between whatever happens on that job site and your own stuff, including your cash, including your cars, including your personal residence where you and your family live. Right. So the corporation is a separate entity. It can sue and be sued, and only parties to a contract can sue on that contract. That's something we learned in law school called privity of contract. which is why we incorporate. That's why corporations exist.
Okay, so first step is, of course, if you are doing anything other than very, very simple, base buy a house, rent it out, you probably want to incorporate. Okay, so that's one thing. So Sean, what if, let's say I did incorporate, or let's say I didn't, and let's say that I went out there and my plan was to do exactly what you said. I got private promissory note money. I bought a building, whatever kind of building you want to call it, doesn't matter. My plan was to escalate the cost of it, whether, by building something on a piece of land or renovating, whatever it might be. And in the meantime, I was supposed to get a $2 million value. My value is now going to come in at $1 million because a lot of things changed, cost overruns, timelines, all this stuff, market's falling. What do I do now? Do I tell my investors, hey, listen, because generally speaking, no one hears that there's a problem until the first interest payment cannot be made. And then you get a phone call saying, hey, just wanted to let you know, we're not probably going to be able to make this interest payment coming up here next month. Things are okay, but this is where we're at. When do we make that call? Does liability come in there at all? The sooner we make it better, the sooner we make it not better. Where does liability come in there for us?
Yeah, all really great questions. So if you know you're not going to be able to make payments or some other breach of the covenants of your loan agreement, whether it's a mortgage or a promissory note, the first call should be to your lawyer. What your lawyer is going to do is guide you on what to say, if anything, how to say it, when to say it. They're probably going to tell you you can give your lenders a heads up, but leave the legal talk to me. We use we use specific language to help limit the impact of what we say on you later. Right? So if anyone's ever received a without prejudice email or a without prejudice letter, that has actual meaning coming from a lawyer. It cannot be put in front of a judge. That's the beauty of it. And so,
Oh, really?
that's right. It's
Okay.
without prejudice. It's a communication that cannot be used against you later.
Oh, wow. I did not realize.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen that term before without prejudice,
yeah,
but I didn't realize that was the difference. Okay.
yeah. The
Interesting.
whole point is to allow for a frank conversation without having it used against you in litigation later. It's
Okay.
it's
So
a
we should be
tool.
communicating. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a tool to limit our liability, but still find a practical resolution in some way.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So good to know. So first call to my
Lawyer.
lawyer,
That's right.
most probably using tools. Again, guys, these are tools that we don't necessarily know about, or I certainly didn't, to communicate frankly. Now, and here's my point. I've talked to a lot of people that have avoided that conversation because it sucks. It's
It
a hard,
sucks.
it sucks. Like
Hmm.
I can't, it would be the worst thing in the whole world, especially, I'll tell you what, this fearless group, and especially those in our coaching program, Ignited, we really focus on being good humans. You really, that is what we truly try to be. Now, you're this good human that has made a big mistake. You do not want to go there, but we have to. So, using these tools to have those conversations. You told me about another tool that I'm going to ask you about in a minute once you
Mm.
get through your, but that one also to me seemed very empowering so that we don't give up. Guys, this is the point. We don't want to give up. If you are a lender and this project you've been told is going maybe not so great, it's going sideways. If we can all hang in together, a lot of these things can come out on the other side. We can all come out on the other side of this. But what's happening is fear is having us pull our money sooner than it should be, or whatever it might be. And the reason fear is there is because communication is not. So Sean has very specific steps we can take, tools that we can use to mitigate having all of these things just literally like a house of cards implode. So a without prejudice letter, that's great. I did not know that. What next?
Well, we should probably draw the curtains back and really look at what's happened if a payment is missed, because that's going to lead directly into what my view is the best tool to get us through this. And if we miss a mortgage payment or we miss an interest-only payment on a promissory note, the same thing has occurred. And that is simply a breach of contract. And what happens when a breach of contract occurs? The aggrieved party is allowed or has a cause of action to be able to sue the party who breached the contract. So that is the basic.
And rightfully so. Rightfully
Yeah,
so.
that's fine.
Now,
That's what you signed
and
up for.
again, that's what you set it up for. And again, I want to say this to borrowers, that is something you put in place to have happen if things go wrong. It does not mean that these people hate you. It does not mean, I mean, some of them, some of you guys, some of you lenders are being unkind. That's not what I'm talking about. But a lawsuit is a protective measure. So it's okay if there's a lawsuit. That's okay. We still have lots of time to rectify. And for those of you that are lenders, again, it's okay to use the things that we put in place at the very beginning of our agreements to mitigate, get through this together. And it does not mean that this deal is gone and sour. Your money's gone. Everyone hates each other. It can still be. And I'll give you this as an example. When I walk into a meeting with a tenant, into court with a tenant, and I'm sitting there chatting with them, and we're good friends, and the judges go, "Who's against who here?" And we go, "Oh, yeah, well, we're just here to make it legal." That's all. We're not, it doesn't mean we have to fight. It doesn't mean we have to hate. We're still working together to come to a good outcome. Okay. So, sorry,
All
Sean,
right.
had to go
So
on a little
that's all
rant.
right. So what happens if breach of contract? You can sue. In mortgages, there are additional remedies which sort of uh, are more attractive than starting a lawsuit. And that is mortgage enforcement. Now, mortgage enforcement, largely across the country, but definitely in Ontario, comes from two different places. One is legislation, right, where the courts are, the government has long held that if you're going to lend money and secure it to real estate, you should have a statutory right to recover that real estate to pay your loan back. That's been, I mean, mortgage law has existed for centuries, and that's just how it's codified in Canada at this point. And the other way that mortgage enforcement rights come about are through contract, right? So the mortgage loan agreement will typically have power of sale and foreclosure remedies built right in, and they are within the guidelines of the legislation, meaning they are as stringent as they can be without being illegal, but they are more stringent typically than the legislation. And so that matters, because what that does is as soon as you breach or you miss a payment, you've given leverage to your lender as a borrower, or as a lender, you've received the leverage. Right? And
Okay.
so,
So that
there,
is the first step that kind of changes the balance of power or the ability to take legal action is if an agreed upon payment has been missed.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, there's many ways to breach a contract, but in the context of the conversation we're having, that's the one we're talking about.
Okay.
So here's the thing: litigation, not attractive. It's expensive, need a lot of money up front, it takes forever. If you do not have a mortgage, if you're a promissory note lender or borrower, then breach of contract litigation is really your only litigation option. Unless there is something built into the contract for mediation or arbitration.
Okay. So that says that if something goes wrong, we'll go to mediation or arbitration
That's right.
rather than,
That's
okay.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so again, a nice tip there is if we're going to do promissory notes, if we're going to do them, I don't know why we would do them, but if we're going to do a promissory note, we would want to make sure that our agreement says that if something does go wrong, we have the option to, and I know you have these as tools, and I know you have these as things that you offer to us as your clients, but we would then have the option to go to arbitration instead of litigation.
Yeah. Arbitration is just privatized litigation,
Yeah.
right? The judgment is binding, but it's not a judge, it's not a court, it's a boardroom.
And doesn't it generally kind of feel like mediation?
No, no, it doesn't.
No?
Mediation is a conciliatory, like let's work together to find a solution process. Arbitration is privatized judging,
Oh,
where each
okay.
side presents a case and a judge decides, and that's it. Well, an arbitrator, not a judge.
So why would that be cheaper?
Well, because it doesn't take nearly as much time, there isn't nearly the formality, you're not having to go to court, and so the legal fees are way less.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So we'd want that in our promissory note
maybe,
agreements.
maybe if you're a borrower for sure.
If you're a
If you're a
borrower,
lender,
right?
it's kind of up to you. That's sort of a business decision.
Okay.
But this matters. This all matters because the tool that I think is the most powerful tool to get us through these situations is actually beneficial to both sides in these scenarios because it completely avoids arbitration and litigation.
Ooh, okay. This is the one you were telling me about. This is the one I like. All right. So
Yes,
what is that tool?
this is the forbearance agreement. Now, when I first heard about forbearance, it took me a long time to grasp what it was, but now I use it all the time. And a forbearance agreement is an agreement to not do something in exchange for something else.
To
And in the
not
case,
do something in exchange for
yes,
something else. Okay.
yes, so to forbear. And the lender is the one that agrees not to do anything. They agree not to pursue power of sale or foreclosure. They agree not to sue or even threaten to sue on the promissory note that's been breached in exchange for something else. And that is something else that comes from the borrower. Now, you might be asking, well, what could that be? I'm telling you, the possibilities aren't limitless.
Okay. So yeah, because my initial thought is, okay, if I'm lending money, I'm not going to say, but if you take it or screw it up, no problem. I'm not going to go after you. I'm never going to say that as a lender.
Yeah,
So
but that's
why would I sign that?
because what it does is says, okay, as a lender, in essence, what you're communicating to your borrower is, I understand you don't have my 100 grand, or maybe you don't have my $1,000 a month interest payments. So I am willing to not sue you for a period of, say, 6 months, 12 months.
Okay. Okay.
But in exchange, I want X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
What could
What are
X, Y,
some
and Z
ideas?
be?
What are some, yeah, what are some ideas of what X, Y, and Z would be? I like it.
Well, in the case of a promissory note, it might be that that promissory note converts to a mortgage because mortgage enforcement is a cheaper, quicker, and very effective way to recover funds without having to really deal with the borrower later. So
Okay.
if you borrowed $100,000 promissory note and you got two mortgages on title, you might
Yeah.
say, okay, well, you can have a third mortgage, which you weren't entitled to. That allows the lender to then, at some point in the future, say 6 months, 12 months, whatever the time frame is, say, oh, you haven't paid me back yet? Well, I'm going to power sale. That's one
Okay.
one of
So,
those things.
okay, so I like this. So I lent my money to somebody, things aren't going as they planned, but
Mm-hmm.
they're confident that it can, they just need more time or whatever, right? So I say,
That's right.
okay, put your money where your mouth is, and we'll do this forbearance agreement, which you obviously can facilitate for us. And this will say, I'm not going to go after you. for a year, 6 months, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
But I want my prom note changed into a mortgage that is then caveated or liened on the property. And in
That's right.
for that exchange, you now have turned your prom note into something that is secured.
Yeah, that's one of the things you could do.
Okay. I mean, that's beautiful. That's amazing.
Well, it can be if there's equity. If there's no equity, it's worthless.
However, in time, most
Hmm.
real estate will have equity. So maybe you're not going to get paid today, but
Yeah,
maybe you're going to get paid in 10 years. I'm sorry, I'd rather have my money in 10 years than never.
that's right.
Um, okay, so forbearance agreement. Yes?
That's right. Yes,
Okay. So if you are a borrower, do you want to sign one of those? If you're confident in your project, you should have no reason to not sign this.
that's right. You should be
If,
asking the lender.
yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And if you are a lender, a powerful tool that you can use as well. So, okay, I love it. Forbearance agreement. We have a couple questions for you. I've been waiting until I can read this one thoroughly without losing eye contact with you and without paying attention. So we're going to read this together. So Michael's asking, will you cover the options for the private investor who is on the other end of the corporation and not getting paid? So I'm assuming the lender. Is there any legal options for the lender or investor? Is there an expiration date before that you need to take legal action? So that kind of was covered a little bit, but maybe we can actually address it specifically. So did you catch that question the way I read it?
yes, yes. So,
Okay.
Michael, great question. And whenever anyone says the word investor, I always think equity, not debt. I think investors invest money into a project and they earn a return based on their equity percentage. So, I'm going to answer your question from both perspectives, just in case you're referring to equity. I think you're
Nice.
referring to debt, but I'll answer both. So, let's start with debt. And this is actually what we've been talking about the entire evening tonight. If you are not getting paid, then you look to the source of your agreement, which is going to be the contract, the promissory note, or the loan agreement, or the term sheet that the two of you, jotted down in a text message exchange, right? A contract in law requires three things. Offer, there must be an offer. Acceptance of that offer, and consideration flowing both ways.
And
A
consideration what?
can, Flowing both ways. So,
Okay.
so Tiffany, if I send you a text right now and said, Tiffany, I want to borrow $100,000 from you, and I'm going to pay you 12% interest only in equal monthly payments for 1 year. That is an offer. And if you text me
Gotcha.
back and say, sure, and then send me 100,000, then you've accepted that offer. Actually, just sending me the 100,000 is enough to prove acceptance. But if you say sure, then you've accepted. Then the consideration is, well, I get the benefit of the 100,000 and you get the interest. So we have a valid
Gotcha.
contract. Just because it's not written down on a piece of paper with proper margins and proper numbering and signed doesn't mean we don't have a contract. A signature, importantly, if you want to really nerd out on law stuff, a signature is just evidence of acceptance. It is not the acceptance itself. Acceptance
Oh.
comes from the meeting of the minds. The second you texted me back, sure, our minds met. We had a contract. So,
So now it doesn't, if acceptance wouldn't be verbal then, we're not talking about, well, he accepted it, we talked about it. We're talking acceptance being in writing something provable that they
well, it's
accepted.
preferable. It's preferable to be provable.
Preferable.
But
Okay.
you could, if you just wired me 100,000 and didn't respond to that text message, that's acceptance.
Yeah. Okay.
Why else would you have sent me 100,000?
Right.
You wouldn't have.
Right.
That's acceptance. So acceptance does not need to be written. It doesn't even need to be verbal. But if you are wise and savvy, you'll get it in writing somewhere, somehow. Preferably with the help of your favorite real estate investor lawyer drafting contracts. So, because what's missing in my offer to you, Tiffany, was what happens if I don't pay you? What can you do? What special
Right.
rights do you have? How, if what's missing for me is if I miss a payment, payments are due on the first, and I pay you on the second, does that mean you're entitled to call the entire loan?
Right.
If it were me, I would want a cure period of 5 or 10 days so that if I pay you late, you can't sue me anymore. Right? So
Mm.
there's a whole bunch of terms missing, but that doesn't mean it's not a valid contract. It just means we didn't think it through very well.
Okay, I have a question for you. So, and you, I mean, you're probably going to say, "Oh, well, you're going to give me a lawyer answer." I'm thinking that's what I'm thinking. You're going to be a
Let's
lawyer
see.
answer. Okay, so my question is, so I do not lend on Promenade. I shouldn't say there are two people that I lend to on Promenade, but that's because we've been, working with them for 20 years. So, but I generally do not lend on Promenade, and I don't recommend anyone do it, and I never have. I've been quite verbal about that over the years. Are you suggesting that if the prom note is created in a certain way or structured well enough that there could actually be some safety? Because to me, I mean, it's like writing an IOU. I found an IOU from a friend of mine from grade 5 when I'm going through my stuff when I was moving. So she still owes me, by the way. But to me, it's as good as an IOU. Are you suggesting that perhaps there's some security in, not security, that's a bad word again, talking to a lawyer. There's some safety perhaps in it or no?
There can be. So I'll tell
Really?
you this. Yes, there can be. I will tell you this. I don't take a position on promissory note lending because that's not my role as a lawyer. I I have seen people make very good money and not have a single default doing prom note lending.
Absolutely.
But there are some cardinal things you need to remember. Interest rate is a reflection of risk. And so if you do not have built-in security to your promissory note, you are taking a bigger risk. The reason that is because if you have real property as security via a mortgage, you have additional remedies to you that you might not otherwise have as an unsecured lender. So we got the risk of a mortgage and we got the risk of a promissory note. And the interest rate should match, right? The difference between mortgage interest rates and prom note interest rates should be up here to reflect the difference in risk.
Right.
Next, the terms of a promissory note can be crafted to significantly reduce the risk. And
The risk
you
too.
the risk to the lender,
Okay.
right? The
Interesting.
lender's the one with the most to lose here, in theory, because they're the one putting the money out, right? So in our example, you gave me 100 grand. You could lose 100 grand. I got 100 grand, so I can't really lose it. I mean, I could, but I still owe you. So um, here's another piece that I have seen, and I've never seen it done correctly unless I'm doing it.
Unless
The
I'm doing it. Yeah.
I have seen at least 200 times a promissory note that says, in the event that this promissory note is defaulted upon, the lender can register a mortgage on so and so property. That
Sounds good.
sounds great.
Sounds
Sounds great.
fantastic.
Not enforceable. I can't. And this is absolutely the case in Ontario, and I am fairly certain it is the case in most other provinces, that for a lawyer to be able to register a mortgage on title, and only lawyers can register mortgages, for a lawyer to register a mortgage on title, they must have a certain document called an acknowledgement and direction signed by the borrower and witnessed by that borrower's lawyer.
Right. Okay.
If that is not done at the same time as the promissory note, then it must be done at the time of the breach. And guess who is not all that willing to sign an acknowledgement and direction once they've already breached a promissory note? The borrower.
Perhaps. Perhaps the borrower. Yeah, makes
So you
sense.
need that
Okay.
done in conjunction with the promissory note.
So, a lot of this stuff can be, again, like there's a lot of things that we can do ourselves as a real estate investors. There's a lot of things that we can kind of, muddle through. But if, for example, you waive the right to, well, not the right, you waive having your lawyer look over your contracts because you go, oh, it's pretty simple. It's a one pager. I understand all the terms of it. I don't need a lawyer. But you're going, oh, well, but if something goes wrong, I can just register a mortgage. It says it right there. But a lawyer would know that that's actually not in practice going to actually happen. So
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough how going to a lawyer, and you're probably not going to love this, Sean, but this is the way that we worked a lot of our years, a lot of our deals, all of our deals. Our lawyer, we often had the contracts. So we would put together the contracts ourselves, but we always, you guys, always had a lawyer review. And yes, you have to pay them to review. And yes, sometimes they said, your contract sucks. We're not taking any part of this. We're not taking any liability in it. Either you get us to do a contract or we do not recommend you using this one. And yes, that happens, but you always want a lawyer's opinion on it. So I'm sure you've seen and heard these things come through the years.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, all the time. And I tell people, getting some legal advice at the start is the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy,
Right?
right?
It
Is the
really
cheapest
is.
insurance because, if you're lending $250,000 and you're worried about a $500 legal bill, like, I mean, that it just isn't very smart because it's just such cheap insurance. And you can probably get your borrower to pay for it. So, uh,
Absolutely. Okay. So there's so many golden nuggets, you guys, in this stuff. I want to just pause and kind of remember. First of all, you guys, Sean's a lawyer. I don't know how much you charge by the hour. I'm going to say anywhere between $300 and $600 an hour. He is here right now for free. If you have any questions, put it in the chats. Speaking of questions, we do have one. I'm going to read it to you. Let's see if we can figure this one out. George is asking if payout payment is missed and the funds used to lend are through Olympia Trust, so registered funds, obviously. The property is collateral on the Olympia Trust form. Does the borrower's lawyer have duty to inform Olympia Trust that a property has been sold?
well, George, let me see if I can take a stab at answering this. The question is whether the borrower's lawyer has a duty to inform Olympia Trust. It's not really a duty. But I'll tell you this, if you are a lawyer for a borrower and a borrower is going to sell the property and they've sold it, the buyer's lawyer is going to do a search of title. They're going to find, among other things, that Olympia Trust mortgage. And they're going to send what's called a requisitions letter. And that letter is going to say, get this mortgage off title before closing or we're not closing, which they're completely entitled. And every single requisition letter that I've ever seen, except for mortgage-free properties, has that requisition on it. Completely legitimate, right? As a buyer, unless you agree to assume a mortgage, you want that mortgage off. Otherwise, it's yours. So as when the buyer's lawyer sends that letter, does that title search, I, as the seller borrower's lawyer, I'm going to receive that letter. And then I have to go get a payout statement from Olympia Trust. So I'm going to write Olympia Trust and say, hey, give me a payout for this mortgage. And then Olympia Trust is going to send it back to me. And then on closing, I'm going to pay Olympia Trust. They're going to put that money back in your RSP account. They're going to take their fees, which I don't think they do. Anyways, if they do, they do. It'll be on the payout statement. And then the buyer gets the property. So it's not really a duty. It's more just a matter of practice. If now I get the sense that maybe you might be going through this as a lender, and if you are, where this gets complicated is if your borrower is going through power of sale. And if they are going through power of sale, then you are in a tough spot. I can tell you that because I have personally been through it. My very first private lending deal through my own Olympia Trust funds, I lost 95% of my principal.
Ah,
And there was nothing I could do about it. So, George, if you want to reach out to me after and have a conversation about what you're going through, we can chat about it.
Okay, so just so you know, George is one of our Ignited members, which means he will be in the private coaching group afterwards.
Great.
So I'm sure we can get in a little bit of a conversation there. Tyler too is saying, I think we need to talk. I invested with a guy and now we're part of oh, he was actually talking to George, maybe, sorry. Oh no, maybe to Michael. Sorry. Anyways, Tyler will also be in the private coaching as well. So I think it's Uyi says since we're going back to the part where people can acceptance, what is considered acceptance of the terms.
Hmm.
So since a non-response is acceptance, is an emoji, sorry, an emoji, like a thumbs up, acceptance too.
I think you'd have a pretty good case to say yes, that it is. Now, there has got to be a case on this, a court decision about whether an emoji is considered acceptance. It almost rings a bell in my head that something
Okay.
of this caliber, of this nature, has been
Like
used
a
to.
precedent has already been set.
Yes, I
Okay,
can't
what about
remember,
You
but
mean you don't
I'm
remember every court case that has ever gone through Canadian law about
no.
like whether it's real estate or not? You don't? Well, huh. That's
Don't
weird.
tell my professors.
Yeah, we do
But
have
very
quite a
likely.
few. Okay, interesting. Yeah, we have lots in this group that have lent out funds and definitely are, looking in a little bit of a rough spot. So Michael, who was our first question here that was talking about is there an expiration date before that you need to take legal action? So let me see. Private investors on the other side of corporation and not getting paid. So what he's saying is I am in my investments are a limited partnership and a mortgage.
Mm. Well, very complex.
Wow.
Limited partnership is
Like,
an equity stake,
mhm.
unless your limited partnership units are set up like debt instruments, in which case they have a rate of return and you get your return of principal. Complex. We don't need to, probably outside of the scope of today's call. Michael, if this is an Ontario matter, please reach out to me and we can talk through it. The options will come straight from your contract. I'll tell you that right now. It'll take digging into what you agree to, which in your case would be the limited partnership agreement and the subscription agreement for those units. And will also be if there's you mentioned a mortgage, if there's a mortgage loan agreement that's connected, or if it's not, that will also set out what your remedies are. Typically, if there's a breach of contract, you've got 2 years from the date of discovery of that breach in order to enforce.
Okay,
Otherwise, you'd
two
be
years from
right.
the date of discovery in
Mm-hmm.
order to take legal action.
That's right.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, Michael, hopefully that answers. Go ahead and put in any additional questions that you have for sure. Um, Tyson says if payments have been missed for approximately 3 years, is it too late to take legal action then? Over the 3 years, the borrower has been making countless promises to pay, but funds were forwarded to a third party who took the money overseas.
Oof. I'm sorry you're going through that, Tyson. The question again comes down to discovery. And in your case, the discovery will be the moment in time in which you knew and accepted that you were not getting
Knew
paid.
knew what? Knew there was problems? Or
No,
knew
knew that you were not getting paid. The promises are what keeps extending the timeline, right? If I miss my theoretical $1,000 months to you, Tiffany, and I tell you I'm going to pay you next week, and I do, great. And if I keep telling you I'm going to pay you next week for 2 years, at some point in those 2 years, you probably came to the conclusion that I wasn't going to pay you back. And
okay.
it's at that point. Now, this is going to go down to litigation because if, in Tyson's case, um, if he files a statement of claim against the borrower, my very first part of the defense would be a statute of limitations defense, saying, well, you should have done this more than a year ago to stay within the 2 years. And your counter to that would be, well, I didn't actually know that I was not going to ever get paid because of these promises. And that would come down to a judge.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. So it's not necessarily when it started happening, but when you actually lost hope,
Kinda.
essentially.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's
All
a
right.
acceptance, or sorry, discovery is a very complex area of law. I mean, I keep saying that, but I mean, you could teach an entire course on discovery.
Okay, so Tyson data discovery just explained, so I think that probably then answers that question. Okay, Michael, are you in Ontario? So that would be what comes down to whether or not Michael is available to help you. Michael, what if we're not in Ontario? We're heavy Ontario and Alberta in this
Okay.
group.
Well, I practice in Ontario, and it doesn't really matter where you live. It's really where the transaction occurred or is occurring, right? So if this is a deal involving an Ontario limited partnership or an Ontario property, then I likely can help. Although most contracts, especially when we get up into sophisticated levels like you would expect in a limited partnership, will have a governing law clause that chooses the governing law. So if the governing law is Ontario, I can help. If it's not, then I can't.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
So Michael is in Ontario. That's great. Also, one of you that had made a comment in here, I know your deal was on Ontario, though you are not. So, Michael says, I'm in Ontario, and that's where the deals are. So, um, yeah,
Okay.
so sounds like, so how do people reach out to you, Sean?
Best way is through my email, Sean@cardinallaw.ca, SHAWN. You can
So
also find me on socials.
sorry, SHAWN.
That's right.
SHAWN, right? And then on
Yes.
socials, what are you on
At
Facebook?
Sean Quigg. Yeah, you'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on Instagram at SP Quigg. And those would be the the best ways to reach out to me. If you find me on
Yeah,
Facebook, Facebook Messenger, you'll get a response pretty quick.
perfect. Awesome. Okay. Oh, James, James Rakundo. He says Sean's my go-to. I highly recommend him. So it's James. Haven't seen you in
Thanks,
so
James.
long. Again, another good human, someone who's, gonna try and write any and every thing that they possibly can and do it all good. So yeah, awesome. Okay, guys. Let me just make sure I got all the ones from right here. Yes, I did. Perfect. Thank you, Ange. Okay. Thank you, Sean, for joining us. I just want to say, you guys, so when I first came back, I had, heard from so many borrower lenders and then borrowers too, that things have just gone crazy in this private lending world, and people are saying I'm not doing this anymore on either side. And I'm still of the opinion that this is a very powerful tool that we all as investors probably need. We just have to find the safer way around it and not overfinance and not over leverage and not do all of the things that became flippant, which I don't think will now, because everyone has now experienced their first downturn. It's hard to do when you haven't experienced a first downturn. Now that we have, we're all wiser for it. So, but there's so much more life left in this real estate investing world. And it's breaking my heart to see that some, both borrowers and lenders, are leaving. Some are going quiet because they're just so upset at how things have gone, both, again, borrowers and lenders. My message here today is hopefully there are ways to do things that it's all figure outable. And it just means communicating. When we stop talking to each other, stop responding, start pulling our money instead of trying to find a solution, that's where we run into trouble. And that's where Sean and I first connected, was because I don't even know what, but you had put something in Fearless, some post about you know, it being figure outable, and I reached out to you and I kind of said, hey, listen, I want to almost create a support group for some of these borrowers that are just going through rough times, just to tell them, hang on, this can get better. And you were like, yeah, I'm in. I would love to help. I don't like seeing what I'm seeing. There's a lot of pain going on, and I'm in. And this is all, guys, this was all volunteer basis. So again, good humans. Immediately the second I said it, Sean was like, yep, done. So I love your vibe. Thank you for joining us. I love that you are a real human that can talk real talk. You understand real estate investment, but you also have tools that can help us. I'm not sure if you see, but there's just so much, lots of thank yous coming into the chat for you. So, guys, we will be back. Is it next week that's apartment buildings? I'm sorry. I will one day get it together enough to have all my next weeks all figured out and know who I'm talking to about what. But soon enough, we're having on a good friend of mine, Chris Davies. I've known Chris for 20 some years, I'm sure. Grew up in an apartment building family. They were the biggest property managers in Edmonton for many, many years. Having him on next week. Sean, in the meantime, thank you so much again.
Oh, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. And if you just hang tight, we're going to jump into the coaching session. And I'm just going to close down the Fearless group. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful week, and we will see you soon.